Joe, I've got some bad news for you to kick the show off. I don't want to kick the show off on a sour note, but I do have to get out ahead of this a little bit.
Hit me.
Well, as you know, our Patreon's been doing very well lately.
Great.
We've been picking up a lot of new subscribers. We've been getting a lot of great feedback, and that, of course, is patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys, the best movies Patreon out there. We'd love for you to sign up and pay for more of these Mylars, like the Slumber Party Massacre one that we got going on this week. But the bad news, Joe, the bad news is that I took all of last month's Patreon revenue and I bet it on Drake showing up during the halftime performance at the Super Bowl. The odds, I mean, to be fair, if he had shown up during Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show, we would be millionaires right now because the odds were you could bet on this. They had odds. The odds were 3,500 to 1.
Did you ever think why the odds might be so favorable if you were to hit?
Because of
slim
because of the
extreme
unlikeliness, but the odds were so extreme.
Enticing. You're right. No,
so enticing.
That's not how it works. The farther the odds, the more enticing, or as you would call it, the worse a bet it is because the less likely it is to happen. And surely you couldn't have possibly imagined that Drake, a person who was about to be culturally lambasted, would appear for his own funeral.
I kind of thought that maybe
you thought Kendrick was like, just kidding. I didn't really care about pedophilia. Come on.
I just wondered if the lure of the publicity of it would be strong enough to make it happen. Like if his no. You know, if Kendrick for the first time in his life would choose like publicity over integrity or artistic vision.
No.
If finally but because think about it, if that happened, we would be talking about it for a year. We would be talking about it till the end of time.
But we can just talk about this till the end of time.
I know. And I just love those odds.
There's no way Kendrick spent all year establishing that Drake is an unsavory character to just at the Super Bowl be like, just kidding.
It didn't have to be just kidding. Maybe they would sort of
like
maintain their antagonism.
They would like wrestle.
Yeah, it would be like an antagonistic sort of back and forth. Well, I was wrong, and I lost all our Patreon money.
Okay.
But
I don't even mind
to sign up for the Patreon and help us to get that money back.
I'm not even mad because
Why?
the Eagles
Why?
won the Super Bowl.
Congratulations.
Congratulations
to you and the city of
I'm
Philadelphia.
not even mad. But look, this is a movie podcast. I'm not going to go off on my birds. If you want to go birds, if you want to talk birds, you can come over to work and talk to me about the birds.
Do not come to work and talk to Joe about birds.
Nobody come here. But Brett, I'm not going to talk about the birds. I'm going to talk about Hollywood at the Super Bowl.
Hollywood
the
came
stars
out.
were out.
Big
Brett.
time. All these Johnny-come-lately Eagles fans came out with their Kelly Green on.
Mm-hmm. You know, obviously Taylor was there, of course, supporting her beau, Travis Kelce.
Having a bad night.
What did you
think?
First
bad night of her life.
Speaking first Hollywood, the game started with the teams running out to great fanfare with a little interstitial, a little epilogue, or what do you call it? A little prologue from John Hamm for the Chiefs, and then Bradley Cooper and his son, of course, for the Birds.
Do you think Paul Rudd was pissed? Because it's always like for Kansas City sports, it's always John Hamm or Paul Rudd.
No, I don't think Hamm is the choice every time because Hamm also goes to the Royals games. He also, he always is is he a Cardinals fan? Whatever. He always he likes his baseball team. I don't know. He's like a 4-sport guy. I feel like Rudd is really only showing up for the football. Is that all in my head?
No. Rudd is all across the board, Kansas City, and also Hamm is a St. Louis Cardinals fan as well. So it's getting a little. I think they should have gone with Rudd instead of Hamm, but that's not my decision to make.
Anne Hathaway was there wearing birds green.
Brooklyn-born Anne Hathaway, somehow a Eagles fan.
Why not? I love Anne Hathaway, and she looked amazing wearing Kelly Green.
She looked great.
Paul Rudd was there, sitting next to who was he sitting next to? He was up in the booth with Sandman.
He was with Sandler, I think.
Sandler and Paul McCartney was in the row behind them.
Paul McCartney, Adam Sandler, and Paul Rudd. But that was my second favorite, like weird seat arrangement of the night.
Now, who was your favorite?
It had to be Kevin Costner and Pete Davidson.
Costner and Pete Davidson. Now, did they just independently buy tickets to the Super Bowl, and when they got to their seat, they looked over and they were like, "Oh, hey, it's Kevin Costner."
This is the question I've been wondering. Here's the options, completely at random. Oh, it's Kevin Costner. Wow, that's pretty cool.
That doesn't seem likely. This
Second
is the most important day.
Here's what I'm hoping. I think their publicists set this up. I think Kevin is talking to Pete about being in Horizon Chapter 3. I think we might see Pete in Horizon Chapter 3 because Kevin.
Hey, maybe he's talking about financing it.
Here's the thing, because we will talk in the second half of the show. We went and saw Horizon Chapter 2 over the weekend at the Santa Monica Film Festival.
Santa Barbara.
The Santa Barbara Film Festival, the U.S. premiere of Horizon Chapter 2. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show for Patreon subscribers only. But now I'm thinking, Kevin's got kind of his mojo back. He really had his mojo back this weekend. Now he's at the Super Bowl. He's flying from Santa Barbara to New Orleans. He's talking with Pete Davidson. I think he's
spent New Year's Eve
making a run. He's going to get Chapter 3 made, and we might see Pete Davidson in it.
Honey, New Year's Eve with J-Lo, and he is opening with a team of investors, but in a $100 million soundstage in Utah.
Really?
That's his newest thing. You know, De Niro has a $1 billion one coming out. A couple other actors are linked up. You know, I know Corden, yes, true story, has one in the UK.
James Corden.
But as tax incentives get better in different pockets of the country and overseas, infrastructure is being developed to support as production migrates there. And Costner's a huge part of the Utah one. And I'm thinking, this is all coming together for Chapter 3 and 4, baby.
Yes, Costner is smartly using this Horizon debacle. Let's be fair, it's still a debacle, but he is using this Horizon debacle to make himself the face of like saving American like movies, like in theaters and movies and the culture of movies and the kind of infrastructure of movies. I see what he's doing and I love it. And we'll talk more about it in the second half of the show. But who else was at this stinking Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, really, the only other one of note was that Brenda Song and Macaulay Culkin. You know,
they were there.
They were there together in a rare public appearance, although that's their new thing.
And don't forget Samuel L. Jackson killing it as Uncle Sam in the halftime show.
Yes. Brett, there's also commercials, and Hollywood really shone through in the
Love
commercials.
Those commercials.
I have some spots here that kind of were popular. I'm gonna mention the spot, and I want you to guess which A-list director directed these ad spots. Okay. Did you check out that Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Jeremy Strong in the tub of beans and Ben Affleck and Drewski and that whole Dunkin' Donuts spot?
Yes. All right, so this is a Boston-centric thing.
Which Academy Award-winning director directed the Dunkin' spot?
I think John Sayles directed it.
Wrong, Ben Affleck. Who directed
Obvious. That's my first. I don't know why I didn't go with my first guess.
Who directed that? Okay, did you see the spot with Harrison Ford where you were like,
you better believe I did.
Oh no, Harrison Ford is now the old man Walter Brinkley.
Yes.
In his new Ford's like, man, times are tough.
Yeah.
But they used to be great.
Yeah.
And then it kind of cut to a pastiche of American exceptionalism.
And it's for Jeep.
Because
at the end he says, even though my name is Ford, I drive a Jeep.
The spot was called Owner's Manual. Harrison Ford's still in debt, apparently. Which Academy Award former and current nominee directed that spot for Jeep?
That spot was directed by Christopher Nolan.
That spot... Sort of James Mangold, which is just like the other side of the it's in the upside down.
Yes.
Christopher Nolan, James Mangold directed that spot. Okay, a couple more. Brett, did you check out that spot when Seal turned into a, get this, hold on to your butts, a seal?
A seal. I did see that.
Now, which hilarious current famous director directed that hilarious spot for Mountain Dew called "Kiss from a Lime"?
That had all the signs of a Edgar Wright joint. That was directed by Edgar Wright.
I like your guess. That was directed by none other than Taika Waititi.
Damn it! I was on the right track, though.
I
was in the ballpark.
Okay.
I was in the ballpark.
Two more for you.
Yeah.
Stella Artois' weird ad, David and Dave, the other David, when
this one was confusing.
Matt Damon is Beckham's brother or something,
yes.
And then he's not as famous as Ben Affleck. Which famous A-list director directed Stella Artois' David and Dave spot?
Okay. David and Dave. And they weirdly talk about buffalo wings for like 10 seconds. They're just burning clock talking about bufflo wings. It's supposed to be about Stella Artois.
It's a $20 million
so it's very
joke.
talky. It's sort of roundabout.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to guess that this was directed by one of our favorite directors, Ira Sachs.
That was directed... Stella Artois' spot was directed by Ben Affleck.
No, we did two?
Now, my last one, Brett. Well, I have two more.
Divorce must have been
two
expensive.
more. Who directed Lay's The Little Farmer spot? This is an ad of a young girl nurturing a potato to perfection, symbolizing Lay's commitment, of course, to quality. Who directed Lay's The Little Farmer spot? Do you remember the spot, Brett?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's sort of about farming, agriculture.
It
like
emphasizes care and
labor.
dedication in cultivating the perfect chip.
All right, I think this was directed by the director of I'm Still Here, Walter Salles. I think Walter Salles directed this. A man with a real conscience.
That was directed by Taika Waititi. And then finally,
Stop doubling up. That's it's. I think I have to guess new people every time.
and then finally, I wanted to end on this one because
Okay.
it starred your guy. First, the performance. What did you think of Glenn Powell in the Ram Trucks Goldilocks and the Three Rams spot? Did you check that one out, Brett?
I didn't see that one, but based on what you're telling me and based on what I know about Glenn Powell, I think he did an excellent job.
He did
The
not.
man
He did
doesn't
not.
miss. He's got charisma for days.
He might, but he missed in the spot. Directed by your favorite director, David Leitch. David Leitch directed that.
David
spot.
Leitch. David Leitch directed that. That's the director of The Fall Guy and
Yes.
he was the stunt coordinator on
Deadpool
John
2.
Wick and yeah. Not so much a fan of his work per se. I did like Atomic Blonde, but I got to check out that Glenn Powell commercial, baby. Maybe he really found
It doesn't even
his
make sense. It's
aesthetic.
like he's the Goldilocks, like, but then he's too small, just right. But then he fights a dragon. I didn't get it. So there you go, Brett. Another amazing Super Bowl
Wow.
for Hollywood, taking over sports.
Well, and
biggest
speaking of
night.
Hollywood, we are the prophets of Hollywood, and we got another episode of Movies Baby coming up for you right now. Joe, are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Then, Margo, why don't you roll that fanfare, please?
Welcome to Movies Baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, here as always with my co-host Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog. Go Birds!
Go Birds! I'll
Thank
say
you,
it
thank you,
too.
thank
Congrats to the Philadelphia Eagles on their second Super Bowl victory. Although, Joe, I do think, speaking of the Dogs, I do think that Georgia deserves half a banner for this one.
No, I do.
considering-
I say today, go Dogs as well. Go
Thank you. Considering how many dogs are on that roster, take note, NFL. If you want to win, draft the dogs, particularly on the defensive side of the football. But we're not here to talk football. This week on Movies Baby, we're talking Anora, the new Best Picture frontrunner. We're talking, Joe called it, we're talking Emilia Perez meltdown. You better believe we're talking Carla and the whole damn train wreck. Plus, we've got your box office updates. We've got reviews of a very Valentine's Day weekend at the movies with the action comedy Love Hurts and the slasher rom-com Hard Eyes. And then in the second half of the show, for Patreon subscribers only, you're not going to want to miss this. We're picking our top 5 actors of 2024. We each have our lists, and most importantly, we're going to be telling you all about our weekend at the Santa Barbara Film Festival, where we saw the U.S. premiere of Horizon and American Saga Chapter 2. And Kevin was there.
We'll be telling you our review.
Other people were there. We'll tell you who else was there. We had quite a celeb sighting in the lobby. We'll tell you all about that in the second half of the show. But for now, Margot Carson, show me the money. And by money, I mean the weekend box office returns, baby. Now look, Super Bowl weekend is typically slow at the box office. The studios are more focused on the trailers that they're pushing out during the Super Bowl. They're not as focused on who's going to the movies because not a lot of people are. The last time a number one movie crossed 30 million over Super Bowl weekend was 2015 with Clint Eastwood's American Sniper. So it's been a decade since we've had a movie even do 30 million at the box office on Super Bowl weekend. And here's a fun fact, Joe. You know the biggest opening ever over Super Bowl weekend? The biggest opening ever over Super Bowl weekend was 2008.
Paul Blart's Mall Cop.
You know, you're kind of in the ballpark.
Okay,
It was
what was it?
2008's Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus, the best of both worlds concerts. It was a live
Cool.
concert
All right.
of Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus. Actually, probably a good strategy for Super Bowl weekend.
that's
like,
smart.
don't do a movie. Do something do a concert film or something.
Well, that's what the
And
good
actually-
folks over at Becoming Led Zeppelin
yeah,
did.
Becoming Led Zeppelin. Look at that per screen.
There's like a
7,000 per
release
screen.
documentary about Led Zeppelin that came out this weekend. 360 screens with a nice cume. 7th place with a $2.6
Nice.
million dollars. Good for getting the lead out this weekend.
But overall, this was a typically slow weekend at the box office. Dogman held on to the number 1 spot, but it did have a pretty big drop-off, 62% drop-off. If you compare that to the the last Dave Pilkey big screen adaptation, 2017's Captain Underpants, that only had a 49% drop off in its second week. So,
That's all right though. Dogman is the ballerina to Captain Underpants' John Wick. You know, it's a spinoff, and it did admirably.
And they budgeted accordingly. It was only
admirably.
$40 million budget, and it's already up to $66 million worldwide. So Dogman is still really so far the big success story of the year. Coming in at second and third were the new additions, but in addition to becoming Led Zeppelin, the new additions to this week's box office: Heart, Eyes, and Love Hurts. Hard Eyes from Sony and Love Hurts from Universal. Kind of like Valentine's Day counter programming. They have rom-com elements, but one is a slasher, one is a sort of John Wick action thriller. Hard Eyes did $8.5 million on an $18 million budget, which is not bad. But if you compare it to Companion, which came out last week, similarly a sort of medium to low budget studio sort of high concept horror thing. Companion did $9.3 million on a $10 million budget. And I think that budget, there's a world of difference between $10 million and $18 million when you're talking about these kinds of movies, because the margins are really tight. The theatrical window is going to be really tight, because next week we have freaking a Marvel movie coming out. So everything that we're looking at now is going to get wiped off the face of the earth because of the Marvel movie. And we got a Paddington movie coming out. So, Hard Eyes had a really small window to do some damage at the box office. And that, I really am surprised they couldn't figure out a way to keep this thing at $10 million, because then they'd be sitting really pretty. But as it is, still a little bit of an uphill climb for this thing to see profit at an $18 million budget.
That being said, for an original piece of IP put out on Super Bowl weekend that has to compete against the other Valentine's Day genre movie for boys and girls, eating into its cume, for Hard Eyes to take home 8.5, it's not a sequel, it's not based on anything. I do think that's impressive. And I like that Sony took a chance on an original slasher IP at that 16 to 18K budget figure, but ultimately a little shy of perfect. But in these days, I think they're over at Sony saying, phew, we survived the weekend. Pretty good, Brett. Pretty good.
I believe so. They definitely did better than Universal's Love Hurts, which sadly had the same budget, $18 million budget, but only made $5.8 million opening weekend, and the bad reviews are not going to help it going into next weekend. The coming of a Marvel movie is not going to help it, like we said.
And Valentine's Day will be over.
So Love Hurts, unfortunately, is probably going to go down as a bomb, is not going to see profit, is going to lose money, which is unfortunate for Universal. But I want to talk about the biggest story of the box office over the past week to 2 weeks is not showing up here in the U.S. domestic box office. So we can wipe this U.S. domestic box office off the screen. I am talking about the incredible, the unprecedented, the historic explosion going on at the China box office, the Chinese box office. China's film market right now is off the freaking charts, Joe. We have never seen anything like it. Let's look at the details. And this is incredible because you'll remember when I was doing my 2024 box office recap, one of my big themes of 2024 was that China's box office had a big drop in 2024. They dropped 25% overall from 2023, which is a huge drop post-COVID. And they didn't have any titles show up in the worldwide top 10, maybe one at number 10, depending on how you do the numbers. But that's very unusual because they've had like usually two movies firmly in the top 10 over the last couple years. Well, they really turned the ship around, Joe, because all of this is anchored by an animated sequel called Neza 2. Neza 2. It's an animated adventure movie based on a 16th century Chinese novel. The marketing made it look sort of like Moana. It's like the aquatic things going on.
Avatar, Moana.
Joe, this movie's only been out for 2 weeks, and it has already grossed, in China alone, it has grossed $1 billion. In one market in 2 weeks.
The one film.
One movie.
Not the Chinese box office last week made $1 billion.
Which is also doing incredibly. We'll get to that.
You're just saying
one movie alone.
Neza 2 made $1 billion in 2 weeks.
Joe,
has any American film ever made $1 billion in 2 weeks?
This is no American film in America, in one market, in the American market, has ever made $1 billion, period. period.
Not Star Wars, not Marvel.
No,
not
the
Avatar.
closest one, the highest, and once again, this is just we're looking in one market, meaning one country's box office, right?
Right.
So the most a movie has ever made in the U.S. box office, in the American box office, is Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens with $936.7 million. So almost
domestic,
almost $1 billion over the course of its entire run. This movie's already made $1 billion in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? That's insane.
You know,
it's impossible.
We drove to Santa Barbara for their film festival. Carson, book us our flights. We got to go to China and watch Ne Zha 2.
Well, Joe, good news. It's coming out in theaters in
Really?
America this week. Yeah, this week.
Wait, what?
Yeah, well,
all right. Well, fuck Paddington in Peru. I'm going to see Ne Zha.
I got to see what all the fuss is
fuck
about.
Paddington.
Now, it's not
Sorry.
it's not done either. This movie's projected to do $1.4 billion by the end of its run in China alone. And it wasn't just Ne Zha 2. In this 1 week, Joe, January 28th to February 4th, which corresponds with the Lunar New Year holidays in China, there were 6 new releases. Okay, 6 new releases. This is just 1 week. 1 week. The first week that Ne Zha 2 came out, right? There were 6 new releases that collectively made $1.3 billion in 1 week. In that 1 week, all right, the first week. First week, $1.3 billion. 665 of that was Ne Zha 2's first week. But that means that the box office made an additional $650 million. And they were all like animated legacy sequels.
Because Lunar New Year, like, people get off work. Like, it's like
Yes.
it's a massive thing in China. So this is sort of their, like, whatever, Memorial Day weekend or something, like, for their box office, right, Brett? Like, it's like Thanksgiving. Like, it's a big movie going.
It's a big
thing,
movie
right?
going time.
Okay, all
and
right.
what they did was, I think, as an intentional way of turning around the box office and having a good start to the year, one of the box office newsletters I subscribe to described it as if, like, Hollywood released all of their tent poles for the year in one weekend. So if they released like Fantastic Four and Jurassic Park and Superman and Mission Impossible all in the same weekend, right? And so
because they were they trying to craft their own Barbenheimer to like inject energy into their theater going
I
public?
believe so. There's not a lot of intel on like what the strategy was or if this was coordinated.
Right.
But from the outside, it certainly seems like it was strategic and coordinated, and it worked.
Damn.
Because you had this is in 1 week. You have Detective Chinatown 1900 making $313 million.
Stop.
You have
That sounds good.
Yes, it sounds
Detective
great.
Chinatown 1900.
You have Creation of the Gods 2 Demon Force
Stop.
making $137 million in 1 week. You have Legend of the Condor Heroes the Gallants making $81 million in 1 week. You have Boogie Bears making $40 million in $70 million in 1 week. This is all in the same week.
It says Boonie Bears.
Booty Bears.
The Boogie Bears.
You have Booty
The
Bears
Boogie Bears coming in. Future Reborn. That's
making
the sixth
$70 million.
Boogie Bears.
This is all these numbers are in the same week in the same country's box office.
And honey, you didn't
This
even
has
mention.
never happened
You didn't
before.
even mention Operation Hadal.
Operation Adult made $40 million. That was the bomb. $40 million.
That was the
Operation
Our House.
Adult was like, we got to go up against what?
Wait, yeah, Operation Hadal was like, you're fucking me.
We have to go up against what? All those are coming out this weekend? Oh
Okay.
my god!
Wow, that was an invigorating segment. So
Wasn't
like,
that crazy?
so what's like? Okay, so first of all, we got
I gotta take a drink of water.
we got to see.
I don't know how this is possible, Joe.
We got to see Ne Zha 2.
Yeah.
Hey, I love this for China, I guess, or something, and I don't know enough about it to say anything of note other than that didn't happen last year. Whoa,
This has never happened.
That's crazy.
Here's the big question though: is are they out of gas for the rest of the year? Like, did they really release all their tentpoles at the beginning of the year?
well, you know, like part of the residual Barbenheimer thing was a lot of people remembered like, oh, I like to go to the movies, like,
Yeah.
and I know it didn't
Yes.
save everything, but people like the movie weekends when there's energy at the movie theater, and I wonder if they gave this big injection and people in China were just kind of remembered post-COVID, like, I love going to the movies.
Yeah.
Popcorn.
Well, I hope it keeps going.
Yeah.
These movies all sound fun.
They all sound great. I want to see Ne Zha 2. So, I mean, the real question, Brett, is do you have to see Ne Zha 1 in order to get it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out on Tubi.
You know, you probably get more out of it if you've seen Ne Zha 1.
I'm
but
gonna
I
watch
don't
Ne
think
Zha
it's
1. I'm
mandatory.
watching it tonight.
Well, Joe, let's talk some movie news because there's some big stuff going on as award season heats up, approaching the Oscars in a couple weeks here. The biggest news, though, is that you predicted a couple weeks ago. I posed a question to you. I said, we've got, Emilia Perez is a train wreck right now. It's got nothing but bad press. The Brutalist has this AI controversy. So those were the two front runners, but they got all this controversy bogging them down. And I asked you, when Academy Award voting, final voting starts on February 11th, that's tomorrow. Is this bad press going to affect these movies? And if so, what could sneak in? What is waiting in the wings? What could sneak in here and steal the Best Picture crown away from these two frontrunners? And you said, with complete confidence, Sean Baker's Anora. It is Sean Baker's Anora's time. It is now Sean Baker's Anora's race to win. Anora could sneak into this thing. And I was like, I just don't know, Joe. I don't know if it's like too indie, too neon, And you said, no, Anora. And look what just happened this weekend, Joe. What did Anora do? It swept the DGA, the Directors Guild Award, the Producers Guild Award, and the Critics' Choice Award. It got Best Picture at all three, Joe, and now is considered, according to Variety, the front runner to win Best Picture. Welcome to the party, Variety. Joe's been here for 2 weeks.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate that. But let me tell you what's contributing to this and why I thought this was going to happen and why I'm not surprised. I mean, it's a little surprising, but why I'm not totally surprised that Anora had a great weekend. Number one, Anora is an American independent film, and I think that the Americanness has a secret value to the Academy body, and they're not dying to give it to an international picture. But more than that, I think it also is run by those geniuses over at Neon. They ran a perfect playbook with Parasite, which just won Best Picture a couple of years ago, and they won a genius playbook with Anatomy of a Fall last year, taking that all the way to the Palme d'Or, all the way through to a very successful award season in America. So I'm not surprised that Neon and their amazing team, which I have been complimenting the entire award season for their handling of Anora and Mikey Madison's campaigns, that they would have the juice to get this done. Additionally, Sean Baker is a smart, exciting, young American director. His film was shot on film in New York City, cost $8 million, went on to gross almost $40 million at the box office. It has that perfect level of art house credentials, but it has a broadness that makes it like intellectually accessible. It's not pretentious. It has a lot of fun in that movie. And at the end of the day, the Bohemian Rhapsodies and the Complete Unknowns have a tough time making it all the way to the end. And I find that the Parasites and the Anoras have a little bit more going for them because they have the cultural and critical cachet, they have the cool factor, and they are beautiful works of art that the Academy at the end of the day still wants to push and recognize as what is exciting in Hollywood. And that's why I think Anora is going to win Best Picture.
Now, Joe, a movie that is not whose fortunes are not faring as well as Anora right now is Emilia Perez. Emilia Perez, which received 13 Academy Award nominations, which is the second most all time. But shortly after getting those 13 nominations, it was quickly bombarded by all sorts of bad press. There are people who just don't like the movie, think it's overrated. There are people criticizing the lack of authenticity around the setting it in Mexico, and Jacques Audiard saying he doesn't know anything about Mexico and didn't shoot it in Mexico. There was all sorts of bad press, but the cherry on top of all this bad press is this epic meltdown, it's being called, by Carla Sofia Gascon, who's nominated for Best Actress, the lead actress in Emilia Perez. And this was Variety's headline. Carla Sofia Gascon's off-the-rails Oscar campaign has sucked all the energy out of this year's award season. It's an Oscar season meltdown unlike anything that's ever been seen before. So what are we talking about? What did Carla do? What was her big crime? What caused this big meltdown? Well, back in January, the journalist Sarah Hagee unearthed some offensive statements that Gascon had posted in Spanish on X over the last few years. These disparaging comments touched on topics like George Floyd, Islam. She also apparently called her co-star Selena Gomez a rich rat. This was before they started making her, or kind of people went back into the timelines, and apparently she had already been cast in Emilia Perez when she tweeted that. Yeah. All right, so now Gascon has offered a sort of lukewarm apology and deleted her X account. But then she went on and gave a lengthy interview on CNN that she booked without Netflix's involvement. Netflix, of course, is handled the distribution of Emilia Perez and is handling the award season campaign. So Netflix did not want her to do this. She did it anyway. And then she has also stayed active on Instagram, where she has been defending herself against criticism, saying that things were taken out of context, accusing Fernanda Torres's team of possibly planting some of these stories or digging up these tweets.
Ding. No, I don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. But regardless, this has just been such a mount, kind of an unprecedented mountain of bad press for someone nominated for an Academy Award, that Netflix has taken the unprecedented step of cutting Carla Sofia Gascon out of all of their press, out of all of their, award season sort of campaigns. They're constantly doing, we were in Santa Barbara this weekend. There was all the Oscar nominees were there doing their little Q&As and trying to tell their stories.
Selena was
and drum up good press.
Talking
Selena
about
was there.
Emilia Perez.
And saying that Emilia Perez has lost some of its magic, she admits, because of all this. But Carla Sofia Gascon has been cut out of all of that. I couldn't get a definitive read on this, but I don't think she's going to go to the Oscars. I think she's been disinvited from everything.
No. That's not true.
I can't find a definitive thing, but
okay, she went off she's still nominated. Like at the end of the day, it's her
they're
nomination.
saying she's been disinvited from everything. So maybe
she's
does that include the Oscars?
Disinvited from campaigning. She doesn't want to be. Netflix and the Emilia Perez people have barred her from any press in America for the picture. I haven't heard that she's not going to attend the award show.
I haven't heard one way or the other, but there was a blanket statements about her just being cut out of everything. Yeah. So we'll see if she shows up at the Oscars or not. Now, my question for you, Joe, is we know that the Oscars have no problem giving awards to bad people. They gave a Best Director to Roman Polanski in 2003, and then everyone in the room stood up and gave him a standing ovation.
Yeah.
In absentia. We also know that Hollywood has no problem navigating around controversies if they want to.
Yeah.
DC figured out a way to get The Flash into theaters and to get Ezra Miller on red carpets. Hollywood can navigate around things if they want to. They have a very flexible moral code, as we all know. So my question for you is, what was Sophia? What was her actual crime here? What was her actual? What did she do that was so wrong that has basically got her blacklisted from all of these events and from these awards campaigns? Because this is unprecedented. So what was her actual crime?
Carla has gotten caught up in the cultural film discussion of the year. And I think it started before Carla's ugly, hateful, should be condemned tweets.
They're bad. They're bad. We're not saying they're not bad.
They are bad. But let's take one step back 1 second to talk about Emilia Perez. I think Emilia Perez, before it won anything, was another Jacques Audiard movie. You guys seen Dupin? That might fucking send a shiver down your spine to some of the. You have to be from where you make a movie about people. They would not like some of his other films, which are never about where he's from or the language he speaks or realism or anything. So there's the first thing, which is like, it's Jacques Audiard's new film, Emilia Perez, which won. They all won Best Actress at Cannes. It was celebrated.
Collectively,
celebrated coming out of Cannes. It won the Golden Globe for Best Musical 3.5 weeks ago.
Yep.
So for the entire year, the Academy, the voting bodies, the artistic community, the voting artistic community has liked and championed Jacques Audiard's strange trans cartel leader getting sex change operations via Zoe Saldana's help cartel disappearance Mexico movie. Like, it's a lot. It's crazy. It's a weird film with and then so once it won in Cannes, then it started getting the backlash where people watched the film and they didn't like a lot about its themes or a lot about its production or a lot about its actors. So it started getting a lot of bad sort of press in the cultural, conversation. Oh, this movie isn't good for trans people. This movie isn't about Mexico. This movie isn't good for Mexican people. This movie isn't good for all these people, which it may or may not be. I don't think Jacques Audiard gives a shit about any of those things because he's not concerned with that. He's not running for president. He's a crazy man that makes crazy movies. So when Carla's tweets came out, the Academy, the American culturati were looking for a dismount because they didn't want to have any more cultural conversations about Emilia Perez. Everyone lost the thread. Is it championing trans people? Is it not championing trans people? Is it helpful for diversity?
So they were already looking
Is it not
for.
helpful for
They were looking
think
for
everyone
a
was like,
reason.
can we not talk about Emilia Perez anymore? Like, sorry, like it was. like once it was weird and pro-trans, people liked it, but once people started hearing that it was anti-trans in their cultural diet, they were like, oh, I don't want to be voting for that movie, but I've already backed it so hard. So like everyone was just like looking for an out. This Carla thing came up, and then she handled it terribly. So Carla, then the tweets came out after the Golden Globe win, because Emilia Perez was just marching to Best Picture, just like flying to Best Picture. 13 nominations. It's fucking Titanic level. Like, it was going for it. Then Carla's tweets came out, and I think that the Academy breathed a sigh of relief because they don't have to talk about Emilia Perez anymore and decide whether or not it's good for trans people or Mexican people. But here's what I want to say, which is Carla's things were so ugly. A couple things about that. Number one, Carla's tweets existed before you cast her in the film. Carla's tweets existed before the campaign started for her Best Actress.
Happened.
And like, if all of these PR people are so freaking like, there's no way that the good people over at Neon that I just complimented wouldn't have like looked into the. Just if you just Google a couple things on X or Twitter, you can learn a lot about what Carla thought about a lot of different things. So my first thing is like, you let her get really far down the line before anybody told the famous person to check their Twitter for bad old tweets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Second thing. It's, everybody wanted to make Carla the winner so that they could pat themselves on the back for trans rights. And then the second Carla had a problem, everybody abandoned her with the power and quickness of 1,000 suns. It's like, we want to celebrate trans representation and give this woman her due. But the second it gets difficult, we're going to fucking throw you under the bus so hard your head's going to fucking spin. Fuck you. So you can be trans if you follow all of our rules and thoughts, and then we will give you an Academy Award. But if you are trans and don't follow our thoughts, we are going to uninvite you from the Oscars.
And not just her tweets, but also her refusal to follow the sort of protocols of how you apologize.
And that's
for
the
things.
next thing, exactly.
Right? It's sort of going rogue from Netflix, doing it her own way, I think was the nail in her coffin more so than the tweets.
That's just bad business. That's not how Hollywood does this. I've been in difficult situations in my little tiny capacity where talent has stepped in it, and I've worked with talent that wanted to follow the fucking rules and apologize per the rules of the studio and the agents and how we do things in the press. And then I've dealt with talent that was said, I am innocent and I am going to stand here and I'm going to scream it into the sun. Nobody wants to hear that you're innocent. Everybody wants the fucking blood. Where's your apology, asshole? Carla didn't apologize. And even worse, she went on an interview with CNN Espanol or CNN Spain or whatever they call it. And I'm sure they call it CNN and España.
Yeah.
CNN, I don't know what they call CNN in Spain. She went on an interview in Spain, and she said, without anybody's help from her campaign team, and she went rogue, and she said, I love everybody, sorry about that. And everybody said she's a piece of shit that can go die in a hole. It is just,
it's very interesting. And again,
I don't know.
I
don't know.
We're not.
I don't know.
We're not defending Carla's tweets by any stretch of the imagination. They're terrible. But if
I read them, I wouldn't have cast her in the film.
It's very interesting to when the sharks decide to circle in Hollywood and when they don't decide to circle. When they decide, like when they cover up stuff and just move on, and then when they all circle and are out for blood. And this has the nasty feel of everyone ganging up on a person that they perceive as vulnerable and without a lot of friends or connections. Who they know they can destroy.
Dude, there's no, you don't get any points now for backing Carla Sofia Gasson. Before, you could walk around with your little pin that says, I voted for the trans woman to win Best Actress. I'm a fucking star. The movie is in Spanish. Look at me, look at me. And once all of your goodwill got taken away, you stripped her of her power.
Her usefulness in the sort of cultural capital of Hollywood was taken away because she couldn't be everyone's sort of badge of honor anymore.
I like Emilia Perez. I like Carla's performance in Emilia Perez, but I would never say it was one of the best performances of the year, and I think people just wanted to wear that as a badge of honor, and now they were like, and they throw her away. I just find the whole thing to be so distasteful and ugly. Her comments, of course, the tip of the iceberg, but just this really exposed some ugly parts of the Hollywood award machine.
I agree.
That I find distasteful, ugly, and not in the spirit. It's just not fair. It's like Carla Sofia Gasson said disgusting, stupid things on Twitter. It's like Brett said, Roman Polanski won an award, Sean Penn won an award. Sean Penn's in PTA's new movie coming out next year. We're all going to stand up and nominate him Best Supporting Actor. Enough.
Because again, Carla is just
enough.
one person with bad ideas. But this other thing is like an industry-wide mechanism that to me is it's just troubling, and it's just nasty.
It's so nasty.
Yeah.
And look, this is the big leagues. You're gonna get torn
Big
down.
leagues.
Like, welcome,
Yeah.
Carla. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna fucking ruin you because like Demi Moore needs the Oscar or whatever. But I don't know. I hate like I love when people love Hollywood and everyone's nice and celebrating the weird movies, and I hate when it gets ugly and personal and money and culture, and I don't know.
Carla,
I don't
here's
like it.
here's my suggestion to you: show up to the Academy Awards,
Of course you will.
do the slap again.
You get
Do
up
the
there
slap.
and just slap. Paul Mescal,
An
and
homage.
Daisy.
Slap the
Slap
shit
him.
out of Paul Mescal. Go to the Oscars, slap the shit
Paul
out of Paul
Mescal's like,
Mescal.
Short films.
I'm not like
as
rooting for
exciting.
you. I just want to see the spectacle of it. I guess I'm part of the problem
Yeah,
too.
well, of course.
All right, next up, we're going to review this week's new releases. And while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers in our reviews, it's impossible to give an honest review of these stinking movies without talking about them in their entirety. And so if we're reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled in the least, not even a little bit, we recommend that you play it safe and put us on mute and rejoin us when we move on to the next movie. Just keep an eye on the screen graphics or the show notes, and you'll know when we're doing which movie when. Let's start off with Hard Eyes. Hard Eyes, a romantic comedy slasher directed by Josh Rubin, director of Werewolves Within and some other horror stuff, and written by Philip Murphy, Christopher Landon, from Happy Death Day and Freaky and those kinds of movies. And Michael Kennedy also got a writing credit here. The film stars Olivia Holt, Mason Gooding, Gigi Zumbada, Michaela Watkins, Devon Sawa, and Jordana Brewster. It was distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing in North America and by Republic Pictures through Paramount internationally. It received generally positive reviews from critics and has grossed $8.5 million worldwide on an $18 million budget. Now, Joe, as our horror expert, our resident horror expert, what did you think of Hard Eyes?
Please don't cut to me. This sucks. Like, I don't want to talk about Hard Eyes, but I'll tell you everyone what I thought. I didn't get it. This movie's not for me. I'm gonna be a grump about it. Basically, my core problem with the film Hard Eyes is tonally, I could not get a grip on it, therefore neither enjoying the horror elements or the comedy elements. The peanut butter was in my chocolate, and the chocolate was in my peanut butter, except it fucking sucked. And
Both were moldy.
sorry. I take that back. It didn't fucking suck. I'm trying to be like cool operator.
Why?
here.
This movie did fucking suck.
I didn't understand it tonally. I thought it was incredibly underdeveloped in these areas specifically: writing, editing, acting, directing, costuming, and score.
I think that's all the things.
That's right. That's all the things. I found it to be not for me. I don't like things that are casual and casually considered. I think it's harmful to be so okay with mediocrity, and I think it's a problem culturally that people see this, think it's good because it's in the movie theater, and then they internalize that as good, and then they go out and they try to emulate it, or maybe they thought it was kind of bad, but they kind of heard it was good, so they think it's good and try to be more like this. I don't want this in the water. I don't want this in the air. I don't like the style and tone and textures of these kinds of movies. I'm being a grump, but that's my personal point of view, Brett. I did not like this film. It just didn't make me feel happy at any point, and I love slashers, and I love romance. I love romance, folks. The characters didn't work together. The jokes weren't set up appropriately. The scares weren't set up appropriately. It's kind of gross to see such like a brazen IP play, but then have nothing exciting. Like, it's a good idea on paper, but then in practice, it's like, why would we want to see this character Hard Eyes again? Like, it just didn't work at all. So I'm sorry, everyone. It's not for me. 1 star, bad.
Joe is absolutely right. Absolutely right. I don't know why you feel such, sort of
because
a
I
guilt
love
about
movies.
this. I know. Well, this is what part of loving movies is. I think you're absolutely right that this is I don't know why this movie is getting such good reviews. It is sort of as close to objectively bad as a movie can be because of the things Joe listed. It fails at every single fundamental level of filmmaking. The mechanics are terrible. The execution is just relentlessly terrible. It cannot do comedy, like Joe said. It cannot do scares. It cannot do romance. It can't even do like like there's like a news report in the movie. Those were terrible.
Dude,
It can't do montage.
I've seen prettier YouTube videos.
Thank you. This looked like a mid-tier College Humor video from like 15 years ago. There's a montage where they do like a shopping for an outfit montage. She's about to go to dinner with a guy that she's attracted to, so they got to go get a good outfit, and she's going to go with her friend. And it's the worst shopping for an outfit montage you've ever seen. It amounts to nothing. They just keep cutting to the same 3 outfits over and over. I was like, do you not even know like what this stock like scene that you're doing is how it's supposed to work? Like, you can't even do shopping for an outfit montage? What are you doing? Everything in this movie needed another pass, needed 2 or 3 more passes. But it was ultimately very sort of smugly satisfied with being mediocre. Like Joe said, the movie has no awareness that it's not a good movie. The movie is sort of confident in its mediocrity, which is maybe the most offensive part. But the execution, the poor execution of the plot, I think, was the thing that tripped me up the most. So if you don't know what the movie is about, there's this hard-eyes killer.
Sorry.
He's a serial killer. Okay, you know, you've seen the trailer. It's a hard-eye. He's a guy who kills couples on Valentine's Day. Okay. The thing, though, the crazy thing that they tell you right away that I did not know going into the movie is that this is a killer who has done this like 3 or 4 times already. He goes to different cities all over the country, right? And each year he picks a new city and kills more and more couples, and his body count is like high. When they showed, was it maybe Chicago, and there's like 6 different bodies, I was like, this guy's body count is getting up there. So my question is, why would you add this unnecessary context? This is the first movie. We've never seen a Hard Eyes movie before. Why wouldn't this be the first murders, or maybe the first high profile murder, and then there's still room for a prequel? But why add this unnecessary like context to the plot? And particularly if you're only making an $18 million movie, why would you increase the scale of the plot so high? Because you're not able to sort of cash the check of that of that high, that sort of massive of a plot, because there would certainly be some sort of nationwide manhunt for this serial killer. It would be something everyone's talking about. No one would go outside on Valentine's Day knowing there's a serial killer whose body count doubles every fucking year. So why add this unnecessary sort of baggage to the plot, particularly if you're not willing or able to pay it off? And this movie is not. In fact, it does some incredibly confusing things based on that context. For example, Michaela Watkins, who I normally really like, is doing a Delta Burke impression, and she's like the boss of this company that they all work for. I don't know what's going on there.
It's true.
But at one point, she has a board meeting. And she goes, because the hard-eyes killer has come to their town now of Seattle. And she goes, why hasn't anyone told me about this hard-eyes killer? And I was like, why does anyone have to tell you? Isn't this the biggest news story every year, that there's a serial killer who wears a costume and kills romantic partners? Like, how do you not know about this? Some reason she didn't know about it already. And then this is my absolutely least favorite thing in movies, is that they then sort of talk about the fact that she didn't know about it for a little bit. And it's like, guys, we are just burning tape right now. You are just treading water in this completely unnecessary plot contrivance that you came up with. What are we doing? Nothing. The movie's not moving forward. We're just spinning our wheels in place over something that didn't have to exist in the first place. This could just be the first time this killer's been killing people, and we could just do the kills and have fun with the characters. Oh my God. Oh my God. Similarly, Joe, there's that scene that's in the trailer where one couple is going in a restaurant, and they turn to the other couple as they're walking away, and they say, have a nice night, don't get killed, right? And then the other couple turns to each other, and they go, why would they say that to us? Awkward. What? Why would they? And they do that for a little, and I'm like, why would they say that to you? Because of the premise of the fucking movie, you dumbasses. Where have you been? Why would they say don't get killed? Because of the fucking movie that you're in. That's why. I did not like Hard Eyes, Joe.
Yeah. When the film wrapped, I said to myself, I don't want to watch horror movies anymore.
This man loves horror movies.
I literally on Saturday night had to go see the Universal original Claude Rains Invisible Man on 16mm just to shake off the cobwebs and continue with my life. of loving horror because I was like I'm done with horror. Between this and Companion and Wolfman, I'm like fuck.
This man
guys.
loves horror.
Fuck you
Do not
guys.
take this away from him. This guy tries to bring up Cannibal Holocaust like in conversation. He loves horror.
I honestly didn't want to ever watch a horror movie again, but now I do because I watched Invisible Man.
Hard Eyes is also like extremely online, but in the most annoying way possible. It's like the way that your dad is extremely online. The script has this nauseating amount of internet buzzwords, except people are like saying the internet buzzwords in real life to other people, and they sound incredibly lame when they're doing it. You can imagine if the most basic person on the planet tried to talk to you about kink. That's kind of what this movie is about. And you're just like, ooh, get away from me. I don't want to hear your opinions on kink. Just go get a pumpkin spice latte and leave me alone. This movie is obviously trying to do Christopher Landon style. Obviously, Christopher Landon wrote it. They're trying to do Happy Death Day tone, but it just doesn't have a fraction of the likability necessary to pull off that kind of style. And you can blame Christopher Landon for that. He wrote it.
You blame the editor because I feel like they cut all the topic sentences out of every single one's lines. So the whole movie, I was like, wait, oh, I guess that. Didn't you feel like things were being under-explained the whole time? And you were like, what? Or over-explained. You're like, got it.
It was one or the other. It was under-explained or over-explained, and
Weird.
It just left the plot as this absolute mess at all times.
Enough. Get the fuck out
I
of my
also
life.
think at some level the movie was trying to be like satire or parody, like specifically of like Hallmark movies.
All
like
the time.
it was trying to like
it was
satirize
trying to be
rom-com.
funny about horror movies and trying to be funny about rom-coms and trying to be funny about
But to be effective at
Fuck
satire,
off.
you have to be smart and funny, and this movie is neither. You also have to have a point of view, and I don't even think Hard Eyes knows what that is. I wrote down this movie is like Mr. Beast's Smile. I don't really know. I can't really explain that, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I get that because it's like you're looking at it, but there's nothing going on there.
Yeah.
But
It's also like trying to be like at weirdly central culturally, but you're like, you're an alien. Why are you? What are you doing?
Also,
here?
it has that.
Go back to your home
It has a
planet.
thin veneer of like calculation.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
you're like,
that's it.
You're doing something
That's it.
bad,
You're
but like, I think
you're trying to
mean
manipulate me
because you
Yeah.
know that that's going to do good.
Yes,
but Hard Eyes doesn't get to the part where it's going to do good.
Joe. There's a Hobbs and Shaw joke in the movie.
Can we talk about Love Hurts? I'm sorry. I am gonna like.
At one point, they go to a drive-in and they're
done.
playing His Girl Friday. How dare you drag His Girl Friday into this mess of a movie? You frauds. 1 star from me as well. Terrible.
Yeah,
Let's talk about Love Hurts. Let's talk about Love Hurts. Okay. We both watched these more or less back to back, by the way.
Yeah.
Love Hurts is an action comedy directed by Jonathan Eusebio, who is a stunt actor, and this is his directorial debut. I love that. I love when
bro.
stunt coordinators
Me
or
too.
SFX guys, Stan Winston or whatever, got to direct a movie.
Yeah, their films are never good, but I love always giving them.
They're never
the
good,
shot.
but I love watching
love
them because there's always like interesting stuff craft-wise going on.
And just to
them.
say, this guy's no like kind of stunt actor. He is the man.
Thank you.
You're John Wicks.
I didn't mean to.
You're
yeah.
like
I didn't mean to
every
undersell
action
him.
movie you love. Like this guy is been in 50 fucking movies. Like he's been around the block. So they gave it to a guy that knows about stunts for sure.
Absolutely. It's written by Matthew Murray, Josh Stoddard, and Luke Passmore. It stars Ke-Huy Quan, Ariana DeBose, Daniel Wu, Marshawn Lynch, who they identify in the credits as Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch, which I fucking loved.
And he does go
I
beast
cheered
mode.
in
He
the
does go
theater.
beast mode in the movie.
He says beast
He does
mode.
get down into his stance and go beast mode, and then run forward like an O lineman.
Honestly,
Or like
fantastic.
a,
Fantastic. Its plot follows a former hitman turned realtor who learns that his brother is hunting him when he reunites with his former partner. It was released by Universal. It received generally negative reviews, and like we said, bombed at the box office. Joe, do you mind if I start on Love Hurts?
Nope.
Love Hurts is not a good movie. It's not a good movie, but it has a really lovely and fun spirit to it, and it had enough good things in it that by the end of this movie I was rooting for it. I was like cheering for the movie and the characters, and I was like overall charmed by it. And again, not a good movie, but did not just have the just sort of nauseating the nauseating feel of Hard Eyes. It was a movie that I like really wanted to like root for, and I wish it was a little bit better. But here's some of the specifics about it. Ke-Huy Quan, again, he's not a good actor. He acts like he does all his dialogue the way I talk to my kid. Everything is like sort of overstated. He like talks to adults in the movie like you would talk to a child. It's like he's not a great actor. He doesn't really have like sort of great instincts as an actor. There's not a lot of nuance in the performance. But he is a very good stunt actor and a very good action scene performer. The action scenes overall are really incredible, really well done. They're very creative, and Ke Huy Quan looks incredible in them. Suddenly,
he kicks butt. Like the
Yes.
joke of the movie works. Like Ke Huy Quan kicks butt.
Oh,
yes, he does.
He kicks butt.
Yeah.
He kicks butt credibly and effectively and with style. Ariana DeBose is a very good actor. Maybe my big
That's
takeaway.
a hot take.
Yeah, maybe my big takeaway. We knew she won the Oscar for West Side Story, and you sort of inevitably ask, is this sort of just a one role thing? Like she just got the perfect role.
Same thing with Ke Huy Quan.
Exactly, Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I didn't really know, going in, I didn't really have like kind of a verdict on Ariana DeBose until this movie, but I think she's a very good actor. Joe, you pointed this out. She's kind of like a kooky actor. She kind of has like a nice sort of like eccentric take on some of her line reads. There was a lot going on in her performance, and I thought once she became more of a main character throughout the second half of the movie, that's when the movie really picked up for me. And she kind of brings Ke Huy Quan along with her. Like his performance got better when they were sort of coming together and their romance was starting to develop. I really was impressed with her in this movie.
She's like very beautiful, but she's a very like cringy odd bird sort of.
Well, she famously
character.
did the song.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. She's very like
Angela
odd.
Bassett did the thing.
She's very like odd.
But now I'm like,
her oddness in this
yeah.
movie and in other films later it serves her well.
like,
she's very charming.
I gotta go back and rewatch.
She's
Angela
very charming,
Bassett
very
did the
beautiful.
thing. Maybe it was fun. Let's see what else.
I mean, she's fucking amazing in West Side Story.
Of course,
that's not what
of course
I'm saying. But ever since then, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag for Ariana. So
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy that she is not going to be a one-hit wonder like our guy Ke Huy Quan.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm
but
sorry,
look,
kid.
Love Hurts was, I would say, it's better than the trailer, which I thought was terrible. It is better than the first 10 minutes. It takes a little while to sort of get its feet under it. The fight scenes are fantastic. I was cheering by the end. Not a great movie, but definitely not a bad movie. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars because it was all right. It was all right. I was surprised it was all right. It was all right.
I agree with everything that you said. I thought the fight scenes were really cool. I thought that going in, I was like, man, Ke Huy Quan talked a lot of big game about how he never can get cast. So I better see this man do his thing. And promises made, promises kept for Ke Huy Quan. Like, he's a good stunt actor, but, And, he has some moments. Whatever. It's not like he's in The Godfather. It's fucking Love Hurts. So,
yeah.
take it with a grain of salt. He's fun enough. The movie is fine. I do think, though, Brett, you're giving it 2.5 stars. You're thinking it's all right. I will say it loud and true. Unfortunately, this movie is bad. And I think it is bad because it's too stupid for me to have fun. And at the end, like, the ending's so rote that I got mad. So I'm going to go ahead and give Love Hurts 2 stars. It's a bad movie that you should not watch, and I do not like it, even though Brett's not wrong. Like, it's not, like, a hateful film. I don't hate this movie. If you like this movie, God bless you. I have no opinion. Basically, I don't want to have any opinion on this movie. It's bad. It's not for me, but it has some nice parts. Fuck these movies. I hated this. This was the worst fucking weekend of movie seeing ever. I will say, though, after Hard Eyes, and I was grousing outside of the theater, stomping like a little fucking baby. I couldn't wait to get back in a movie theater and watch another one. I couldn't wait.
Right?
And I was like, oh, Love Hurts. Yeah.
It's the magic of the movie.
Yeah,
baby.
Love Hurts was all right.
Look, Joe's not wrong,
You're
but there's just something about it that, and maybe it was
You're
just,
nice.
I was just
You're
trying.
a nice guy.
I was just trying to, maybe just get the Hard Eyes taste out of my mouth or something. It's just, it's the difference between, Hard Eyes is like a bunch of smug motherfuckers who think they've already nailed it, and Love Hurts was like a bunch of talented entertainers. Maybe they're not all the best actors, but a bunch of talented entertainers like trying to put on a show for you and like trying to earn it. And that hit a soft spot for me.
Well
and look,
said.
It's not.
You're not wrong,
It's
Brett.
not a good movie, but for me, it was not a bad movie
It's
either.
It's
it was
a
all
sweet
right.
movie,
it was
which
all
to
right.
me is
Yes.
bad. Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now let's see what we got coming up next week, and is it going to get any better at the movies next week? Next week, I believe. Well, we've already said we got Captain America: Brave New World, which the trailer, based on the trailer, I'm like, is this the parallax view?
Right.
What am I about to go into? I don't think it's going to be the parallax view. I think they just
I have a
cool
sneaking
trailer.
suspicion it's not going to be the parallax view.
They cut a cool trailer though, so that's good
Look
on
how
them.
cool that
That's
poster
good on
is.
them. That poster's great
That's
too. No,
sick.
the marketing is amazing. So the big question for Captain America: Brave New World is less about the quality of the movie. I'm more interested in the box office.
Yeah, how's
I'm
it gonna
interested to
do?
see because Marvel obviously has had a rare sort of downturn last year. I mean they have of course Deadpool and Wolverine, but I'm thinking more like the sort of
Of course.
the Marvel Cinematic universe sort of canonical
Hey.
phases that they're going through. They're in a kind of downturn. So is this going to reverse their fortunes? It's projected to do 80 million, which is not great for a Marvel movie, but is great for a regular movie. I think it underperforms. I don't think it does 80 million opening weekend at the box office.
I'm going to predict that this is a step in the right direction for Marvel, a little bit of okay, we got our footing again, and I think you're going to see right around that 85, 90 number.
I'm also excited to see the other big release this next weekend, which is Paddington in Peru, the third Paddington movie. I know Joe hates this sort of Paddington fandom.
That don't
infantilized
do
adults
this. That's
and so on.
no. That's secrets that I don't say. It doesn't.
You talk about it all the time.
On private to you. Listen. Some adults get a little weird about Paddington.
Oh, now you're saying it. Okay. So it's not a
Some
secret.
adults like Paddington too much. It's not that good. I've never seen it. I know him. I know.
Listen to what he's saying. He's never seen it.
I've
He's
never seen it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hugh Grant kills and Ben Whishaw does the voice. Your guy Ben Whishaw. He's a very talented voice actor. You're gonna fall in love with Paddington in Peru. I'm predicting. That's my prediction.
Okay, look, I liked Paddington when I was a kid. I'm not opposed to liking kids movies, and I'm sure that Paddington and Paddington 2, as far as kids movies go, are really, really good.
My
I
prediction
just hate
for
when
next
adults
week:
like kids stuff. It just drives me up the fucking wall.
Captain America: Brave New World
I
underperforms.
don't know. I like
and
fucking
Joe's
Jason.
Grinch heart gets
Who
melted
cares?
by Paddington
I suck
in
too.
Peru.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that little adorable little
I'm sure it's so charming.
bear just like bouncing down the steps of Machu Picchu?
Dude, I guarantee you the problem with Paddington in Peru is me, not Paddington in Peru. Okay, like that's a theme for this week's review.
I will say though, I
there's
don't know
a problem
if,
with me.
I get a little nervous when like British properties go abroad. You know, when it's like in Peru.
Paddington's
It's like, all right, guys, we know what happened last time. The Brits started globe-trotting. Let's take it easy.
Paddington
Take it
starts
easy,
asking
y'all.
for some big favors from the Peruvians. Like, can you pick up all that wood?
Yeah, I think it's
Put
gonna
it
be
over here.
Yeah, is the next movie gonna be Paddington, the Paddington in the Falkland
Right,
Wars
right.
Part 2?
Very good.
All right. Well, in the second half of the show, in just 10 minutes, this is for Patreon
Punjabi
subscribers
Paddington.
only. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It gets
Could be
they're
good.
on some shaky ground
could be
here. Yeah, it's not. We don't want the Brits doing Hope Crosby movies. We don't want the Americans doing Hope Crosby movies, for God's sakes. In the second half of the show, we are going to be telling you all about our big weekend in Santa Barbara, where we saw Horizon Chapter 2, the American premiere. We saw the man himself, Kevin Costner. We had some wild celebrity sightings, which we'll tell you about in Part 2, and that's only for Patreon subscribers. Patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. We're also going to be picking our top 5 actors of 2024. This is part of our big Oscars lead-up, our award season lead-up. We'll tell you who our favorite actors of 2024 were, but that's only for Patreon subscribers, and you're going to want to be there to hear all about the celebrity sightings in Santa Barbara.
And the film review.
We'll see you there.
Bye.
Bye.